Hello and welcome to Coping with Donald. On Sunday, March 2nd, 2025, a very sad Sunday for the United States of America and the first day, sad day, of what should probably be another 12 or 1300 sad days at least for America. I want to talk about Donald Trump's promises during the campaign and how it's affected by his actual policies. His policies affecting what he promised in the campaign. And to start off with the whole I love Russia Putin turn, which conveniently is run by an authoritarian, an autocrat, Putin, who Donald Trump wants to be like in America and run America. That doesn't. He said he wants to make America great again. And he must be thinking of, because they called Alexander the Great, that's what we should aspire to. Almost every American, excuse me, every American has existed in an era where we've tried to work with other nations to keep the world at relative peace and some sort of structure around the world. And usually the enemy has been seen as an autocrat, or an autocrat has been seen as the enemy. For most people, this threat to democracy is even more than that. It's a threat to our own self-esteem, maybe, or self-image. Being on the right side, and now all of a sudden, and being on the correct side, let's not say right, left. Being on the correct side, and all of a sudden, not being on the correct side. I know I feel like this need to apologize to the world, certainly to Europe, certainly to Zelensky. And if you don't, leave a comment below. As always, feel free to join or like. So anyway, I'm at a point myself, and I wonder how many people out there feel this way, where kind of having an identity crisis because of this. And everything else that's happening doesn't seem even as important as this, even though, of course, if we all starve to death, that kind of seems important. Donald Trump ran on tariffs without understanding tariffs and actually lying to the American people about what tariffs do. He said other countries pay the tariffs, all right? He ran on immigration. He was going to be a hardliner on immigration. He was pretty clear about that. In fact, he got a lot of votes because of that. He ran on draining the swamp, and he ran on a budget that was supposed to decrease the deficit. In fact, maybe even decrease our debt. In truth, these things don't have the effects that one would want. And he ran a course against bringing down inflation. But tariffs not only push higher prices, but they push job losses. And you could say, well, yeah, but if we're putting a tariff on Canada, say, then Canada will suffer higher prices and job losses. Yeah. And it's damaging to us and to Canada. And your point is what? Okay? Trump seems to want to. He has this fantasy that tariffs would replace an income tax, which it can't. So we're leading there to higher prices and job losses. Immigration. Well, it makes people happy, and morally, I object to that, but that is what people wanted. However, I don't feel like I'm in the greatest country in the world when we do stuff like that, but some people do. It does lead to inflation. These people that are leaving, you're going to have to replace them with higher cost people, and that's got to lead to inflation. Plus, it leads to a loss of revenue. Yes, these people were paying taxes. Okay? So you're losing revenue, most importantly, in Medicare and Social Security tax. And we need that if we can't replace the workers. Then you look at the budget and draining the swamp. But he's not draining the swamp. He's destroying departments. Draining the swamp was supposed to be taking bad employees and saying, really, you're not doing your job, etc., which takes time to drain the swamp. It's not supposed to be drain the swamp of people who don't like me politically, which helps my autocrat rule desires. But this budget and this draining of the swamp leads to more unemployment. It leads to job losses. Well, that's more unemployment, Phil. Why did you just say that? I don't know. Excuse me on that one. It leads to this budget's going to lead to the real losses in standard of living for many also. Okay? Obviously, if you eliminate Medicaid, it leads to a lot of anguish and real problems, real health issues for people in the United States. The debt's going to balloon because he's going to give the taxes to the rich, the tax breaks to the rich, and the debt is going to balloon. So there's no benefit there at all. I mean, that's what people always seem to complain about. There won't be help for the needy. There will be adverse effects, pollution-wise, safety-wise, and economically. It's cruelty at its finest, and it's further division between the haves and the have-nots. And there's a lot more people entering the have-nots. It threatens the elderly with the Medicaid and the Social Security worries and the Medicare. I want to just bring up one example of the kind of thing it can do that nobody's been thinking about. Because people are just assuming that government jobs don't do anything. They don't produce anything. I saw a video on something called the lamprey. The lamprey is an eel. It attaches itself to fish. Basically drains the fluids out of them over time. And then discards the fish. In the Great Lakes, there are government workers that fight the spread of the lamprey, the overpopulation of the lamprey in the Great Lakes. They're being fired. The lamprey is going to multiply in numbers that will cause the fishing industry in the Great Lakes to die. That is commercial as well as for recreational fishing. People don't visit the lakes to go fishing. People have a shortage of fish. It's going to raise the price of fish. I mean, these things all can be inflationary when you break them down to their most basic elements. And I mean, when you go from tariffs to immigration to the budget to everything, and to being an autocrat needs a very big military to keep him in power. Okay, which is why they want to increase the military budget. It's not to defend the United States, I don't think. It's to expand the United States. And when you put in all these inflationary programs, all the people that voted for Trump, at the end of the day, economically, it's a lose-lose. And democracy-wise, it's a lose-lose. If you're marginalized in this country, it's a lose-lose. It's all going to lead to inflation and job losses, which is why the Atlanta Fed is coming out with a warning saying they expect our gross domestic product to shrink 1.5% over the next year. Keep in mind that when it shrinks 2 quarters in a row, which it probably would do, because we were expecting 3% under Biden, it technically is a recession. So Trump will, through his policies, put us right into a recession. Man, there's going to be a lot of pain ahead. And I hope you can cope with it. There's going to be a lot of misery. Musk and misery both start with M. So this has been Coping with Donald. You're not going to get a reduction in inflation. You are going to get the immigrants leaving, so I guess if you hate them, you're happy about that. But you're not going to get your inflation down. Inflation's going to go up. It's not going to be as easy to find a job, although a real job. A person like me could go out and try to supplement everything with a crummy job. But when that's all you have, you need a real job, and there won't be any good ones like that. Plus, there's all these people competing for them. I would like Musk to put out a list of 5 things he did last week that aren't about destroying people. But it is what it is, as our leader likes to say. This has been Coping with Donald. I'm Phil, and I'll see you again after there's more news, which shouldn't take long.